us. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessing of this day you've given to us. We thank you, Lord, for the freedom that we have. Lord, as we come together and discuss the business of Mitchell, we just pray for your guidance. In Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Olson.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Robinson. Here. Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Tarts. Smith.
Approval of the consent agenda. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Motion?
Second.
Any further discussion or any discussion?
Question, our supplement, right, or the change order, the sidewalk one, we're 41% over the amount. Did we just miss something there? I mean, usually we're not that far off.
Yeah, we bid what we know in January, February, March when we bid it. And Terry is sick today, but I did talk to him about this earlier. And some of this is when a plumber goes in and digs up the street and has to put in a water service to the house or a sewer service. Other of it is going to be assessed. So we aren't within the budget yet, but some of that money will be recovered as well.
So the stuff we found that wasn't planned, we didn't expand what we were doing?
We didn't have it nailed down, correct?
Any more discussion about public comment? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, roll call, please.
Allen.
Aye.
Barrington. Aye. Robinson. Aye. Thomas.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye. Motion carries. Citizen input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Anyone? If not, move on to the hearings. First one is the application of overtime for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center for a Christmas party on December 9th, 2016.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next one is on the application of overtime for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center for a Christmas party on December the 13th, 2016.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for the city council to recess and set as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, first thing on here is the hearing on Jamie Wagner at 812 West 12th Avenue. Jamie has applied for a conditional use permit to operate a family residential child care center in her home at 812 West 2nd Avenue, legally described as Lot 13, Block 92, Lawlers, 2nd Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. This property is zoned R2, Single Family Residential District.
I'm just making a quick observation. There's only 6 of you, so just to remind that it takes 6 to approve. But having said that, the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this request and have recommended approval with 2 conditions. One, that it's not be transferable, and then also that if she stopped for a period of 6 months or longer, then a new application be required.
Motion to approve with the planning commission's 2 conditions.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Action to table hearing on the West Haven Storage LLC at 1522 West Havens Avenue. West Haven Storage LLC has applied for a conditional use permit for construction of self-service storage facilities at 1522 West Havens, legally described as the east 140 feet of irregular track 4A, located southwest one quarter of section 21, T103 north, R60 west of the 5th PM, less PE-1 platted various, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, Zone HB. Motion to table until November 21st, 2016.
Move to table.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertaining motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider approval, authorized loan from general fund to tax increment fund number 539, custom cycles.
This is an interfund loan from the general fund to the TIF fund for phases 1 and 2 of the project. By doing this, we won't incur additional financing expenses for this project. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, phase 1 and 2 is, refresh me on that. They were supposed to be building out there to get this done.
Phase 1 is Hackberry, Kimball, and then the professional and administrative fees. It's $418,906. And then phase 2 is Juniper from Lawler to Kimball for $103,000.
So this, you said saves us money. How much money does it save us doing this versus going out on the bonds?
You would have your bond issuance cost, your financing fees on top of that. We didn't actually go out for quotes on bonds. Just in our initial conversation when Michelle and I visited with Toby Morris, because this is a city-funded TIF that is in our interest, not a developer-held TIF, it's in our best interest to use our current cash to finance it.
But we don't know how much we do save?
No, we didn't go out and do quotes for, or an RFP for quotes on bonds to see what the financing cost would be.
Do we have some estimate based on past, what it costs us? I mean, here we're saying, we're gonna,
we just
I think the last one was maybe around 3%.
That's what I was going to say, it was
Yeah.
between.
And Toby Morris also did say if we want to go out and get financing later on in the process, we can do that. This doesn't eliminate that.
and then how fast do they pay back based on this tax issue?
Taxes will not be collected until 2018 or remitted to us until 2018 to pay the general fund back. The taxes raised will depend on how fast the development takes place. And Tim might be able to answer more questions on the development out there.
Yeah, we did talk about the increment length, and the length, I believe that Tim stated was 20 years was the maximum that you can take to pay it off, although because this is a city-funded TIF, we had talked when the TIF was created, of not taking on additional phases till the increment is there to support the additional financing. So you'd have to have that increase in valuation within that district line to support the increment, the new tax base to finance the improvements that you're doing.
So I just a little curious on the 3% that we save, that we don't spend on the bonds versus how much money we're taking out of the general fund over a period of 20 years?
Not necessarily 20 years. It depends on how fast it pays back and how much of this you're financing.
And Dave, I have kind of the same question, and it's phase 1 and 2 and approximately what, $521,000? Is that too big a risk for what we can afford if we don't, what if we don't get anything back till 2019?
I think you're okay. It just shows as a liability.
That's my concern.
It shows as a liability to the general fund from the other funds, so it's not really like, it's no different than your other obligated cash that you have in general fund reserves.
But obviously, we're not going to do all of the
Right.
phases at this point. So we need to, I mean.
I don't believe we
Back to
go,
my question is 500,000, should we just do phase 1 or should we, and I don't, I didn't study the,
And I
go
don't
back
think
and
they'll
look
move,
at that much, but
I don't think they'll move into phase 2 until, that's my understanding anyway,
we'll authorize the money for it
until
to
the
be done.
project is supported by tax revenues.
And it's our control that we don't move forward?
Yes.
Or we move at our controlled speed and not anything else?
Yeah, I believe when the TIF was created, maybe, Tim, if you want to jump in, but when the TIF was created, the thing that the city committed to was that the first items identified in phase 1 that was improving the drainage
For the one.
and the improvements there that were otherwise going to have to be done with city funds anyways, because we have tried to do a special assessment several times, which had failed.
Right, and I asked SPN for an estimate to do the engineering and design work, because we have to do the entire design work on all 6 or 7 blocks before we can build the first block. And I asked for that several months ago. We haven't gotten that number back yet. I talk to him every couple of weeks about where's my number for engineering. So it's moving fairly slowly. However, there is an apartment complex already built as part of this TIF. So the TIF is already standing to produce some of the funding.
One of the questions that comes to my mind along with this project, I had a constituent contact me regarding closing Langdon between Hackberry and Ivy. And he was very adamant that he really did not want to see that closed and didn't feel that that was in the best interest of the city in the long term, and felt that, as far as the options that he felt out there, as far as maybe putting in some drainage and businesses that may build on either side of that area, then not having future access by closing Langdon Street right there. I did drive out there, and I honestly can say that I do see his point with that. Are we going to have an option for him and any other people in that neighborhood to address that before we move forward?
We can't close a street. You can only close a street or vacate it. So if it's the one I'm thinking, the one adjacent to the church on the east side, is that the one?
I got a call.
Yeah. We can't vacate that. Only you can vacate that, and there would have to be hearings on that.
Well, and I understand that. I just wanted to know how this fit into the puzzle with what we're considering here with this bill.
The only thing we have planned, and it's a later phase in that area, is potentially a holding pond on the west side of what is now Langdon. We have no plans to improve or pave or curb and gutter even the gravel open road portion of Langdon right now.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily, as I understood it, Dan, and if you got something
He
else.
wanted some curb and gutter in there so the water would flow and it would be less ponding up in the area.
And he was in favor of a drainage and ponding area then along with it. But he wasn't pushing for anything next year or 2 years or 5 years from now. He just wanted to emphasize that he is not in favor of closing that, and he doesn't feel that it would be beneficial to the city in the long run as far as possible businesses to be, that might see that as being a good area.
That's right.
Okay.
And I just want to reiterate, as far as the phases and the work, the council approved that when you did the TIF district. This is our method of financing. And to your concern, Steve, about whether or not this is a hurt on the general fund, just as Michelle said, if it gets to the point where we feel that you need that cash in the general fund, you could always at that time go out and bond and then just have the bond funds from the TIF pay back the general fund at that point. So it's really not a risk to the general fund because we can replace those funds when needed. It's just a less expensive way for the city to finance it. We spent quite a bit of time talking to Toby about, what would be the best way to proceed going forward.
I don't doubt, we're going to do it because we approved the TIF. It's just, I don't know what that ROI is for the city, spending that, put that money up front. What do we say? What's our return on that initial investment? Is there any way we can get that before we have to approve this?
Some of
I
that,
think you need to see the numbers before you just say, well, it's good for us. I understand
Right.
that, but the taxpayers need to understand what it is.
Some of the problem with that is in order to get a good, accurate quote, I could send a note to Toby and just ask him what the average financing costs are, but you're not actually going to know what that is unless we go out for RFPs from the banks to get an actual quote. And I don't know if the banks want to go through that process knowing that we're not actually going to be placing bonds. And there's also a fee associated with that usually in the generation of the TIF bonds. And I wouldn't want we can ask what the average financing costs are though.
I think even just some kind of an assumption
Yep.
that we can put out there is better than,
Yep. In the position where you're in now, even if you were going to do bonds, you would probably need to do a short-term interfund loan because they've started to spend out of that account and they don't have any cash in there and you're nearing the end of the year. If you would like to, what we could do, if you do authorize the interfund loan up to an amount right now, we could come back to the next meeting with what that average financing cost is.
But as I understand from you, and I just want to make it clear, is that at any point in time that we decided that we instead wanted to bond it out, we would have that option.
Yep.
I feel better with that. Okay.
Yep. And I can have them prepare a little summary for us for the next meeting if you'd like, Dave.
Yeah, I don't mean to minimize Dave's concerns, but I'm going to move to approve with the idea that we could always bond if it turns out better the other way.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
aye,
Motion carries. Consider approval for the authorization of creation of Fund Number 619 for campground operations.
The current lease is up December 31st, and so we'll be taking over management of the campground. That was approved by the Parks Board on October 13th. And my understanding is we need to create a fund for the campground, and I'll propose a budget in January. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Yeah, basically because the lease is currently expiring in December, we don't need action to reauthorize the lease because the Park and Rec Board had voted to proceed with the city running the campground. But we will, because it will be set up as an enterprise fund, we are looking for authorization to create that fund, which we thought would be the authorization to kind of move forward with the process from the council to give you something to act on, because we actually can't do a supplemental appropriation hearing until 2017. So we don't want to have the council not in support of the creation of the fund and moving forward with the city operating the campground, and then all of a sudden December 31st no longer have a leasee and not have another option either.
Just to clarify then, the city then will be hiring staff to, city itself will hire staff then to man.
Staff and campground hosts, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So every once in a while, I'll have people come up to me and say, why isn't the city in the business of garbage collection, for example? And over the years, campground has been part of that too before you came. So I guess I'm wondering, was there any talk in the park board of selling the campground and getting out of the business entirely? And maybe that's something we should be looking at.
No discussion on that.
And why did the park board decide not to put it out for lease again?
Well, as my recommendation on the lease agreement doesn't allow for the way it was structured. It doesn't allow for any ownership or improvements in the facilities.
Change the lease.
We could do that. But I think it would be a revenue generator for the Parks Department.
Well, and looking at the business plan, and I'm going to jump to that.
Sure.
If I'm a taxpayer, why would I look at 2015 and say that I made whatever it is, $16,000, and now the city's going to take it over and only make $3,000? Why?
Because we have to do some initial investments is why.
But that doesn't make any sense if I'm looking at revenue generating systems for the city.
We have a house that needs to be replaced. That's a $100,000 expense for the city, and also
Put it in the budget as part and have it leased out to have somebody else operate it. I don't understand why we would take over the operation to say we're going to lose or take in $13,000 less than we did the year before.
We had a discussion just a couple weeks ago about the Baseball Association, and that was not the recommendation from the council to move in those directions, to let to hand over property to individuals.
One thing that I think is important to point
That's not
out
the same
too,
thing.
Steve,
It's
Yeah.
not.
is that although it looks like you're gaining less in revenue, that's because the city then is turning around. There's a lot of those sites out there that need work on them.
I understand that, but that should be a discussion based on the total budget
I-
of the city of what we should be doing with the campground, not that we're
Right.
going to take over the operation of it and then take money and pump it back in.
But my point was just trying to say
I-
that the reason why the revenue looks
I
less
saw
is because
that
the
on
expenditures are
I
different.
I
Yep.
saw that, yeah.
And we had managed it prior to 5 years ago, as far as, from what I know. The history said that we had managed it in the past, prior to just 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know we have,
Okay.
but it didn't make money in some of those years either.
I have 15 years of campground management experience. We can make money on that campground. I guarantee it.
I realize that, there's a number of improvements that need to be made to that campground, and they were actually requested over the last year or more so as well, and the city did not put that money out at that point in time. So at one point in time, it has to be done. And I also know, because I'm on the park board, that there are some other things that the park committee or park board is looking at as a possible improvements to the lake. And this will feasibly, will very well play into the rest of that as well. And then I also look at the swimming pool. Up until the new aquatic center was built, that snack shop was always leased out as well. Well, once the new aquatic center was completed, it then went to city operations. And so I see this as being just an extension of how we've done that as well. Am I
Yep,
correct?
yep.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the creation of the Fund 619.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
You need to have a roll call on this?
Olson,
No.
Rice,
No.
Tronis,
No.
Robinson,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
3-3.
Read the difference.
I move to table this idea until the next council meeting when we have everybody here.
Mayor, I believe it's your vote to break the tie.
I was gonna say, I don't think that we're in position to table once we've already done full vote. Sure, you're there. Are we?
It's my vote, correct? My vote is to approve it.
Thank you.
So motion carries then. Next is to approve the VFW Veterans Park Professional Service Agreement.
Number 15.
Oops, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Action to approve Councilman Hunsaker business plan proposal.
Stephanie, are you able to pull that up, or you just gonna click through it? Okay, yeah, before we get started, I can go ahead and hand out, 6, 7. There you are. This is the PowerPoint presentation here. Before I get started, on the rec center, I want you guys to think about it as one facility as we add the new aquatic facility to the rec center to discuss why I need a business plan. The current path is not working and change is needed. You can go on to the next slide there, Steph. If you look at the revenue, we've been dropping since 2010 pretty significantly. We're actually not going to meet our $350,000 projection this year. We're at maybe 340, maybe even under that. So that puts us at our 2001 levels at the rec center. You can go to the next slide. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I think you can click it one more time, Stephanie.
A little slow on that.
again, our expenses have continued to rise. We've been going up since 2001. In 2016 and 17, you can see the increase for the locker room remodel. That's because we have an aged facility with increasing expenses, so we're going to continue to see that upward trend as we go along. Go to the next slide. You can look at that side by side. Next slide, Stephanie. If you look at our Recreation Center membership, since 2012, we've lost over half our members. We're a little bit over 3,000 in 2012. We're down below 1,500 members at the Rec Center.
Do we have anything to attribute to that?
What, competition? Yep.
As long as we've interrupted your presentation, in addition to competition, are we, price-wise, where are we?
We're looking at that as well. We're doing a fee structure. I'll have that presented to the board on Thursday. And I'm proposing some drops in some areas. And
Yeah, I guess what I was referring to, and I'm making this up, if we're $300 and, you know, prime time athletic center, whatever in town is $200, I mean, are we looking at that?
That's correct. We are looking at that. We're looking at all areas. We're looking at our competition and also other cities as well and see what they're charging.
And this is another area where people say to me, why are you in competition with private business?
Sure. So. Yeah. We'll go ahead and go through the, Stephanie, if you want to go to the next one. If you look at our department as a whole, same thing, we're seeing increased expenses. We're having budget cuts this year, so that's why you see the drop. Next slide. And our revenue has stayed fairly flat since 2001 in the department as a whole. Next slide. And there they are side by side. Now we're going to add an aquatic center to the rec center. And you can see the previous projections were about $86,000 as a standalone facility. This is no programs. This is just the cost of operating the pool. The current projections are about $137,000.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
why?
I'm sorry.
And again, you're at a disadvantage. 'Cause
Sure.
I realize you're new,
That's
but,
okay.
you know, 50 grand. So what happened? Were the previous people incompetent at
Well,
projecting costs?
just the
Did it get
electricity,
bigger, or-
the utility, we got the actual utility costs in just a few weeks ago. That's at 77,000. They were at 46, so that's 30 of it right there. They also did not put in any repair and maintenance in there. It was 12,000. And the chemical costs, I believe, are much lower than what I think it's going to be. I don't have, and I can't get an exact figure on chemicals, but I think I'm pretty close because we have 5 times the water volume.
So I'm assuming when the new pool is built, whenever that is, that we're going to close the current pool.
That's correct, and I'll get into that in the
And
next
that's going to
slide.
save us some money.
40,000.
But I'm looking at when the pool was put on the referendum and the people deciding how they're going to vote, and based on expenses, your predecessor was $29,000 more a year for the cost. Now, we have an extremely different number. And if I was one of the taxpayers, I'd be asking why. What happened?
Let me get to the next slide, and then I'll answer some of those questions. If you look at the Outdoor Aquatic Center, our current outdoor aquatic facility column, we're looking at total expenses of $323,000, $140,000 revenue. That means our revenue percentage of expenses is at 43%. Marty, that's on the last page there. No, on the last page. Yep. There's a big one, yeah. Yeah. Not a problem. Our revenue is operating at 43% of our expenses. You can look at the current indoor pool costs is $41,800. That you can subtract that from the 136 to get the actual cost of operating the pool. Our current recreation center is operating at 64% of our expenses. We have $340,000 in revenue with $528,000 expenses. Stephanie, if you can just click it once, that'd be great. So now we're going to get into what's complicated with the rec center, with the aquatic facility, is my projections here are only including 4 hours of guarded swimming a day, so no other programming is included. So any additional programs will equal additional costs. So go ahead and click it again, Stephanie.
Is that for the outdoor one?
The indoor.
Yeah, we don't currently have
We do not. We do not, but with the slides and the extra features, you have to have, it has to be guarded.
So, so only 4 hours a day, so we're only going to be able to use the pool 4 hours a day?
It would be open just like the other pool, non-guarded.
Well, maybe I'm a little thick tonight, but.
Well, let me finish what I'm, let me get through this, and maybe it'll explain it, because we would actually want to increase our programming from 4 hours a day. I'm just giving this for the sake of
Okay, but
discussion.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
We're guarding it 4 hours a day because there are slides, and the rest of the time, we're not guarding it, and we're letting people use the slides?
Not the slides,
You
just the
close them.
pool.
Okay.
And so the business plan target would put us at 85%. That would be the target from what Councilman Hunsaker, information that he's given me. Our target would be 85%, which means our loss would be at 112 instead of the 188,000. So with the new pool, we're actually going to increase our revenue with a business plan. Go ahead and hit the next one. So, with no additional net loss, the 188 and 188 now, we would need to come in at about 75%, so we need to up that from 64 to 75%. Okay, next slide. So these are the highlights here. Go ahead and go through each one, Stephanie. Our current revenue is 340,000. Our revenue we need to break even at the 188 is 561,000. That's an additional 220,000 in revenue needed into the rec center. And remember that we are dropping right now as our current recreation center is actually losing revenue each year. So our revenue projection with the business plan we would need 635,000, which is about $300,000 in revenue, additional revenue. And our feasibility study is showing us that we need more programs at the rec center, and additional programs calls for additional revenue. And our current outdoor pool is operating at 43%, like I said, and so our net loss could go up without adequate planning. And our memberships have gone down significantly as well. So I don't think we can meet our revenue goals without a professional business plan if we continue on the current management practices under current management practices here.
So is it even logical that you're going to double the revenue with the competition you have in town?
Councilman Hunsaker said we could hit the 85% mark. Or that would be the target.
And you're talking additional revenue, how would that come? The different programs you're talking, or?
It would, a lot of the questions are, how do we price it? You know, when are we pricing ourselves out of the market? Like you said, with the current rec center, we just don't have those answers. We're gonna just pull it out of the sky without a professional business plan.
Again, I realize you're new and I'm killing the messenger, and I want you to know that, but one of the things that was talked about, again, prior to you coming on, was going to a 24-hour kind of, check-in, check-out facility. And based on what I'm hearing from people in town, besides price, that's a lot of the reason why people are leaving the rec centers, because they can do it on Sunday, they can do it later in the evening. Did they look at anything?
We are 24 hours, right? We are 24 hours this year. That came on, I believe, in January.
We are 24.
We are 24 hours.
I was not aware of that.
Yep. But yet we're still dropping. I don't think we're going to hit our goals this year.
You don't think the new pool's going to bring people in?
Of course it will. Yeah. But just as a standalone, without any marketing and structuring our fees correctly, I mean, these are general business decisions, yeah.
This is the same organization that the mayor and I had reported back to the council, I think early in June, when the Park and Rec Board considered doing this, and then they decided to wait till the director was on board, that a lot of cities that have a standalone pool are going back, or communities are going back and actually adding rec centers with their pool because the combination of the two located together really increases your ability to meet your operational needs. And so they told us from the beginning the fact that we had the rec center in existence would be an advantage to us. They also said that when you go through this plan, that the difference becomes that when you open the doors the first day, the pool is generating money versus taking 6 months to a year to try to start marketing and program your prices and things after the pool starts. They said if you go through this plan the way they do it, that when you open the first day, you should be operating in a cash flow position versus always trying to catch up after the fact.
When they do this plan, are they gonna bundle everything like they have now, Stephanie, or Nathan, maybe that's down the road, that right now you've got golf, you've got bowling, you've got aquatic center, you've got the rec center, and you're gonna have the indoor pool. Is that all gonna be bundled with this project, or we don't know?
We don't know. I mean, we can make it, without a business plan, we'd have to make a decision on what's the best route. But again, we're not basing it off of much information on the market. So I would suspect they would have an all-inclusive, bundle that you could purchase. Yeah.
And the Park and Rec Board did have me do reference checks on other communities that have went through this business plan proposal with Councilman Hunsaker, and everybody I talked to were happy with the results of it. They said it did what they thought it was going to do. Sioux Falls, when they opened their first aquatic center, I think it was an outdoor, it must have been an outdoor aquatic center. They used them to set up their pricing and kind of what they were going to do, and they said they model a lot of what they do now based off of that, even though it was, over 10 years ago. They still use that practice when they're doing new facilities now. But they were all favorable references. That was one thing the Park and Rec Board had asked me to do prior to Nathan coming on board too.
At one point in time, Mayor, you had said that you had talked with the YMCA. And I'm not sure how they do their business plan. I'm not sure how they do their marketing. I'm not sure how that process works. I'm just asking this because we're in such a planning process here, and I really don't want to leave stones unturned at this point. Is working somehow with the YMCA an option for us with our pool and recreation center?
I think it is an option. Were you on the console when they came in and did the presentation here, Bev?
Yes, I was.
Was you okay? And I haven't had any conversations with them since that time because of everything that was going on with the, with the referendum and the vote. That was before we did our, had the vote on the pool. It's certainly an option to look at. It's another consideration, but.
It wasn't before the vote on the pool. The vote on the pool was actually, I want to say last November. I actually came on 1st of December.
December.
And it was just before I came on.
Okay.
And then, but I do remember the YMCA coming in and talking with us then and giving us, but I do not remember what their proposal included or
Basically,
how it was done or.
As I recall, and anyone here can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I recall the presentation, they will partner up with rec centers or with communities building pools or whatever. They take over the ownership, like on a 100-year lease for $1. And they take over all, and they manage all expenses. They take the revenue and they take care of all expenses. They're basically taking over the operation and providing the service for the community. That's how I recall it anyway. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, that's how I remember it. I'm just wondering, what marketing does the pool need? All I hear every day is, when are you going to start building the thing? I don't know what, people are, and again, before your time, but, I have people come up to me almost on a daily basis. We voted 18 months ago or whatever it was, and nothing, quote unquote, is getting done.
We have the opposite problem. Most people don't know about all the programs that we offer, and I hear the opposite, that they don't know what we offer at the rec center, and so we're not getting our word out. I mean, I can tell you, use social media, and we can pay for some advertising and maybe get on the radio, but how are we going to target the right group for what we're offering? you know, it'd be better to have a plan. And I think we can generate more revenue that way, because our programs, you can't just have programs and not market those programs. So there's got to be a budget for it. And so when I present a budget for the pool, I want to base it off of something. I don't want to just base it off of just, you know, guesses. You know, I can't really answer that question, but I can answer that I hear the opposite, that people don't know what we offer.
Nathan, I don't want to shoot the messenger again, but I know that during the referendum debates and discussions, the people that were against the pool asked numerous times about the operating costs and emphatically told, no, it isn't going to cost more than $29,000 more to run that second pool. And I just think somehow there's a disservice done to the people that were in that process and that hope. So I just want to go on record and say I think we messed up there. So.
Well, and I have an issue with, okay, we need to market, or we need to and marketing is advertising, period. It is advertising. Is it a matter of that we need a professional, hire a professional agency to do our advertising, or is it a matter of that we need to put more money into advertising and have the various advertising agencies assist us with it? I guess I was under the presumption that with what we have, that maybe we need more money for advertising, and we need people that are in those advertising agencies to help us with it. We only have X amount of money here to work with. We've had to cut our budget for 2017 for, you know, across the board. I mean, I understand, like I said, it's marketing, but I have a question hiring somebody and then turn around and still having to pay for the advertising on top of it.
For 15 years, though, we've been increasing expenses and we haven't increased revenue. And so we keep throwing money at things, but we're not increasing revenue. A business plan, I think, is going to help us turn that table to actually make it revenue positive and actually start seeing this, because this is our biggest revenue generator in the department, and we need to do something. It's going to be a high expense. If you can see that with our programming levels, we're going to need an $800,000 budget for the rec center. It would be good to have a business plan on what to do with that $800,000.
I think that's sort of the biggest thing, is that going outside the box, and it's not a marketing, and we're not hiring just a marketing group, like you said, so it's not going out and trying to find advertisers and doing that. It's a business plan, so it's not the fact that, hey, you spend this much on TV, this much on radio. That's not what it's all about. It's more of a business plan of how we operate that facility in an incorrect way. That's making us go the opposite direction. And they're saying that, hey, we got some ideas. We've done this business for how long? We've done several other entities out there, and we want to get you guys on the right track. And we have the ideas and tools to do that. And that's what they're proposing to us.
So is this such that we maybe need to really get this under, if this is what is decided to do, that we need to get this decided and looked at before we even put a shovel to the ground, so we know where we stand as far as what our expenses and our profit may be?
This is a 12-month process.
So how much are we going to pay them for the privilege of telling them how we're spending our taxpayers' money?
The $63,000, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
That's the $63,000? Is that what you're asking?
That's, yes.
Okay.
And is that in this budget?
So in his staff report, you saw that Nathan stated that if the council approves the proposal, what we would do is bring back a supplemental appropriation hearing that would come out of the Park and Rec Fund cash reserves, not out of general fund.
Okay, and how much do they have, Park and Rec have in their cash reserve?
We just looked it up. There was sufficient to cover, I believe there was close to
You figured that question probably be-
120,000. Michelle and I sat down and went through the cash on hand in Park and Rec before we even made a suggestion as to how the proposal would be funded, to know whether it would have to come out of general fund or if Park and Rec could accommodate it out of their cash.
So if it comes out of Park and Rec and you take half, that's half of the money they've got, right, for contingency?
It's not contingency, it's our cash reserves.
Cash reserve.
And it would be closer to 75%, but keeping in mind that we had anticipated there would be no cash in there at the end of this year. We passed the budget in a way that we thought we would be spending all of their cash,
And-
but
yeah, my question is, do they have any other projects that are a surprise that they're going to need
nope.
more money on?
Actually, Nathan spent a great deal of time, I asked him that question too. He went through to see what they thought they would have left over in the various divisional budgets. And based on that, in conjunction with what we were anticipating coming in for the end of the year of revenue and what's in cash, that's how we came up with a proposal to come out of Park and Rec. They will have quite a bit of budget authority left over in this year's budget that's making it that there will be cash in that fund, which next year is different, as you all know, because we cut all of that kind of excess budget out of every departmental budget for next year, but this year it would be available.
The question I'm going to get from the public is, what are we paying you people for? That's the question I'm going to get from the public. Why can't our people in the Park and Rec, the city employees, the Park and Rec board, why are they incapable of doing this? Why do we have to pay somebody else $63,000?
Well, and I think that's the one that keeps going through my head. I mean, I can hear them very quickly say, we just put a full-time administrator on staff. We are paying that. Why are we paying this professional businessman? I guess I'm really not ready necessarily to vote on this tonight. I would like some time to think about this, and I'd like some time to get some input. And I propose that we table this until the next meeting when we might have our other two members here.
Can I answer that question though, too? Significant changes are needed, and you're putting the pressure on me to make those changes on the staff. They're significant if we're going to move in the right direction, and also the pricing and everything else that comes with it. You have to accept the prices if we're the ones setting them as well. So, and there's going to be a lot of input, and I'm looking for a professional individual to help me actually set prices and actually come up with a good plan that we can actually move in the right direction. Because otherwise I will have to make significant changes over there. Because I think that's what's needed. But
Well, if that's what's needed, that's what's needed.
mhm.
I mean, it sounds to me, and I don't want to be unkind, but it sounds to me you're looking for $63,000 worth of cover.
Worth of what?
Worth of cover
Oh,
for decisions you're going to make anyway.
not at all. Not at all, because yeah. Sorry.
I'm going to make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
Do we have a roll call on that? I'm not sure what we had there for the vote.
Olson,
No.
Rice,
No.
Tronis,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Barrington.
Aye.
The vote is 3-2 to table.
How about me? If I don't, I'm not around the rock.
Alan, sorry.
Aye.
Okay, or did you? I thought you just figured.
You hear?
So-
Oh, yeah. I was kind of quiet anyway.
Okay, motion to table carries. Next is to approve the VFW Veterans Park Professional Services Agreement with Civarella Design Incorporated and the City of Mitchell. That's to approve the professional service agreement for the amount of $15,000.
We get a mic, please?
Not sure what that's.
And they'll be on site for 2 days a week for that $15,000 during construction? is
That's
that-
correct.
I think that's right, yeah. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes, that's right. And it should be pointed out that Civarella did donate all of the preliminary design work and the diagrams and everything that we're working from today, including the 3D versions that have been used to collect donations toward the park. All of that was donated by Civarella. The city has done what work we are experts at. We've already accomplished the water service. We're rebuilding the sidewalk right now. We went in and tore out all the underground foundations that we knew to exist. And this week we'll be putting in the sewer service, which will handle the drinking fountain and probably the spray park that's going in. So actually, I suggested to the mayor, the rest of this is almost like building a house. There's electrical, plumbing, there are foundations for the walls, et cetera. And someone's going to have to coordinate all these trades together. And Civerell, I believe, gave us a very, very good price at $15,000. So they've donated at least that. And now we want to pay them to carry this through.
Move to
Is-
approve.
Well, can I ask a question? How much did we actually raise on the donations?
I can clear that with you first. Right now, our pledges and in-kind commitments, and some of the in-kind commitments, keep in mind, are estimates, but it's at approximately $225,000, and we have $130,000 cash received already.
Okay.
Nice job.
I have a question. Is this 15,000, then where does the money come from? From the donations or from the 35,000 that we've already voted on that the city's giving, or?
We discussed
I
that
have
this,
concern that the city said we're putting in 35,000, and now potentially we're putting in another 15,000.
No,
we had
That's
this.
the question I've been
coming out
asked.
at 36,000.
Yep, we had a discussion on that this morning, that the 15,000 would come out of the budget authority that the council already gave.
Okay.
And then whatever is, it would be repaid by any other fundraising that goes above whatever the costs of the park are. So that would be the maximum commitment from the city, is the 15,000.
And the other question I was asked, and it goes to a similar question that was just asked on the last topic, why can't the city do the construction management?
Kim, pick that one.
Well, we've done not only the construction management, but the construction of the things that we are expertise at. The foundations, the coordination. Civerella even is having to go out and seek experts on things like the spray park, the colored cement bands, things that they have done in other cities, notably Pier, et cetera. I don't know that if you add all the consultants together that we do, including the TIF we talked about earlier, $100,000 pays for basically one employee full-time doing nothing else. You have one engineer in the city, and we have, I can't do the work of the 8 or 10 engineers that we have working for us.
And there is a lot of, I think there's 10 or maybe 12 in-kind services, which was from electrical to plumbing to concrete work. And Civerella, Brad will go ahead and coordinate everything together. And it'll have to be this winter, because they're busy right now with the fall. So all that construction work will be coming.
And if this was a city project where you're hiring an architect, you'd be paying 4 to 6% of the total construction cost as a fee, professional service fee for the architectural fee, which I understand he's donated that part.
My other question, and maybe it's for Justin, in their agreement, the limitation of liability only goes up to $10,000. So if they make some huge mistake that requires us to do something completely over, their liability is only 10 grand? And that concern.
The answer is yes, it's 10,000.
What their number they're charging us too, because it's way low. They're saying, well, we're gonna basically offer our services to us at a reduced price just to cover our cost, in an in-kind donation in a roundabout way for the city. So you can't come back and over penalize us on what we're doing, because we're just trying to work with the community also, is what Civerell is doing here. So they're pricing 15,000, which in my mind is extremely low for what they're gonna be doing on this project.
Is
And
that
they're
what
just saying,
that
you know
means,
what,
Justin?
that we're not to exceed $10,000. I mean, that's, like I said, if this was a whole different kind of situation, I will guarantee that number's way higher.
I'd agree with Marty.
Yeah.
So we were pretty successful on the library project when we had an architect on. Is this the same type of scenario?
Sort of, I think.
'Cause that was pretty successful with budget and delivery and everything else.
And I just want to clarify, I think Stephanie said our total amount out of city funding would be 35, not 35 plus.
No, my understanding, the maximum contribution from the city was up to 15,000. Because they have enough funds raised to cover the cost of the park. Did I state that wrong, Mayor, from our
That's
meeting?
correct.
Yeah.
I understand Steve's concern, but, you know, all of this money, almost $250,000, counting everything. I think we owe it to the public to have somebody looking.
Somebody's got to be responsible.
You gotta remember too, I mean, when this thing gets done, it's sort of the gateway, and not sort of like it is, part of the gateway to our downtown Main Street. We've always been worried about what it looks like down there. We're doing something finally beautiful. Let's make sure it gets dotted with an I and a T's crossed.
Our anticipation when this is done is we won't need any of that 35,000 from the city. That it'll be totally funded by donations and in-kind commitments.
And there is still some more, hopefully, some more coming in.
Right, we do have some pending also yet.
We have a
Still
motion.
hoping.
No second.
I'll second it then.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, action on resolution number 3392, approving a utility easement release.
This is the Bridal Drive one?
Title company,
Right, there was a request from the title company in relation to the lot given to release the easement that the city had been granted. In speaking with Tim, it doesn't appear that we have any kind of utilities in the area or any need for any utilities in that area. So the documents prepared are a quitclaim deed releasing that releasing that specific area.
So a house or property changed hands on Bridal Drive, the title company caught the easement not there, and we're taking care of that.
Right, well,
It's 1312 Bridal Drive, so I'm assuming some property change hands there.
I believe so. The easement that was granted, it wasn't specifically granted to the city. It was basically a covenant that was placed in the deed. So there wasn't anything specifically granted to the city. In my opinion, I don't really believe that we have anything there. But the title company, right, the title company is just asking for this to clear it up, so there's no question.
Bridal Drive was notorious for, after they platted lots, selling the east 10 feet of Lot 10 and the west 75 feet of Lot 11, and going right over the lot line.
Move to approve
Second.
Resolution 3392.
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action on resolution number 3393, a plat of Lot A-1B and A-1B JL Overrums, First Edition, a subdivision of Government Lot 4 in southwest 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of Section 3, T102 North, R60 west of the 5th PM, Davidson County, South Dakota.
This plat is outside our zoning jurisdiction, but it's within 3 miles of the city limits, so this statute requires that both the city and the county have to review these. The City Planning Commission did review this and recommended approval, pending county approval. So my understanding is the county is going to be hearing it fairly shortly, so.
Neil, I know we have to do this, but do you have any idea what the logic is?
I think what it is from what
Is it in case we incorporate it later or something?
Well, because there are some jurisdictions where there's joint between 1 and 3 miles and so forth, and so I think what the statute just gives it that, it kind of left that authority, so as some municipalities and counties, particularly like, where you've got Sioux Falls, it's in 2 counties, or you have, this is what my colleagues have told me, and what the history of this is like. You take Meade County, and Rapid City is getting closer, and then you have towns that get up close to it, and so sometimes what happens is you just draw the 3 miles around, but it's probably a statute that needs to be revisited at some point. But nonetheless, it's a statute.
I know I make a mistake for looking for logic in state law.
But it also, what happens too is as the city limits moves, that 3 mile limit moves too. So that over the years, that's why sometimes it seems like we keep getting closer and closer, so. But anyway.
Well, I'll move to approve 3393.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action on resolution number 3394, a plat of Lot 9, Block 2 of the CJM, second edition, in the northwest 1/4 of Section 32, T104 North, R60 west of the 5th PM, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
This is up in that Anthony Avenue area, right behind off of Ullman Street, behind North Armin in that area. This was presented to the Planning Commission and did recommend approval. It looks like it appears to follow the master plan that's out there.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action on resolution number 3395, approving a real estate transfer and signing of necessary documents.
Right, well, this is the last step in the multi-phase project up near Ullman and 23rd, so everybody should be familiar at this point what's going on. This is the deed that the city will be needing to sign to transfer our lot, our interest in Lot 2 over to CJM. CJM has already signed a deed that's being held by Morgan Thaler, conveying their interest in Lot 1. So we're giving over Lot 2 and they're giving over Lot 1. So that's the basis.
Move to approve 3395.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the first reading of ordinance number 2555. Justin, am I legally required to read it? Or can I say as per agenda?
I would just say as stated.
As stated, okay.
All right, I'll proceed with the as stated property.
Okay.
If you, basically, the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this request and did recommend approval. If you mind finding the map, I'll kind of get your bearings straight on this. This is kind of in the corner of 23rd and Ullman. Originally in this area where you saw where the new apartment buildings are out there, the original rezoning came, yeah, there you go. Where originally just north of B, where the Apostolic was originally where the R4 ended. It went down about 600 feet and then subsequently was rezoned again, R4 coming down to pick up B. That is that Quail View, that large apartment, or that long apartment complex a while back you put. Now what Mr. Macheski is proposing is it keeps coming down a little bit further south. And you probably have a handwritten drawing in there that was prepared by SPN kind of showing it. And that's why, hence why you have a legal description that reads like War and Peace. You know, so many feet by so many feet by so many feet. And so the handwritten drawing is the one that SPN used to come down. So what Mr. Macheski is proposing is to bring the R4 further down, is for the possibility of some construction of some multifamily. Am I paraphrasing you? Okay, Mr. Macheski is here if you do have more specific questions. I lost my pen somewhere.
Move to approve 2555 on first reading.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
That's fine.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance number 2556, an ordinance amending certain section of Mitchell City Code, Title 3, Chapter 9, Corn Palace Entertainment Board as such relate to the number of members thereto.
Just for the council's information, the change that's in front of you today for first reading would be changing the city code to reflect what we're actually doing in practice. There's 10 members currently sitting on that board, although the city code calls for 7. In talking with the Corn Palace Board and staff, they feel that the 10 members is necessary in order to continue to meet the volunteer demands and sponsorships and those kinds of things. So we would like to request that the ordinance be updated to reflect what's currently in practice.
You know, I don't have any problem with this, but I'm just wondering, as a practical matter, why do we have an ordinance, the number of people on various boards? Why don't we leave it up to the mayor and the council and whoever? I mean, if you've got 15 people interested, what's the harm in taking 15? I mean, why do we do this in ordinance? I'm just curious.
I don't know if there's a specific reason. It seems to just be the practice.
And again, I mean, I'm going to vote for this, and it's not a big deal, but it just seems to me, going forward, maybe something the management team can talk about is having an ordinance, the park board, the airport board, and then you would have some flexibility as far as, you know, filling positions and that.
How many do you have on the airport board?
Well, I think there's 5.
I can see one practical purpose for having it is that it clearly outlines for everybody, both as the executive elected official, the mayor, and the council. Everybody clearly knows what the parameters are for those boards and how they're operating and who's making the appointments and under what terms.
Yeah, and I know there was some controversy when the mayor first came in, but unless we're going to
No.
be specific, you know, I'll just use this board for example. These 3 people are done in 2017, and then these 3 people are done in 2018. But if we're just going to have a number, I mean, it's just something to talk about.
And they do all have terms established when you pass the ordinance revising the Corn Palace Board, it set terms for each one of those members and who appoints the various people.
Do you have all, everybody on the board, all 10 now, or Scott?
Yeah, we have all 10. We have,
You do.
It's been that way since I came on board.
I guess, and I have a question too, and I don't have a problem with this, but with an even number, what is the procedure if it's 5 to 5?
You get 12 and keep.
I don't have an answer for that.
Is there anything in that somebody else breaks the tie, or, I mean, that?
Scott, have you been around long enough to,
Know
I mean,
that?
are there votes like that, or is it just kind of a
You
discussion?
ever had a tie?
We've never had a tie, no.
But there are votes?
There are, yes.
Have you ever had actually 10 people there?
Nope.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay,
And in this instance, the Corn Palace Director is a voting member on that board.
is,
Yes.
So are you number 10 or are you 11?
And Jeff Smith is on behalf of the council. You have one council member that's a voting member as well, one from the chamber, and then the current ordinance says the other 4 are appointed by the mayor. And this will change it to 7.
okay,
Well, move to approve.
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All those in favor? Think there's anybody opposed? Motion carries. Adjourned. I didn't have to read that. I'd still be reading it.